We were told from our executive producers that we pretty much are going our separate ways. The cinema markets have crashed. It's the lowest it's ever been. I told myself when I change careers from a doctor to a filmmaker, I am going to direct great movies. I pretty much have no choice. So we just had a meeting. We were just discussing the markets for making a movie, and the cinema markets have crashed. It's the lowest it's ever been since COVID. So since 2020, this is the lowest it's ever been. And of course, there's all the news about how Ster-Kinekor actually has sold some of their branches, how subscription video on demand like your Netflix, your Prime, your Disney Plus, those are the ones that are taking over the industry, and not a lot of money is being thrown into film, because also it's a lot cheaper to actually make movies with AI and AI actors even these days. So there's a lot of things that's happening where it's very hard to make a movie for the movie theaters, for cinema. On the one hand, there's also it's a good time to hop on board because the industry is so dead that it's easier for new seeds to be planted and for new roots to grow. But yeah, it's a tough time to be in the industry. Of course, you do get a little bit discouraged to carry on, because you have to think about, it's not just about making a movie, it's about returning money to your investors and being able to carry on making movies. So it is a massive blow for a film production company that specializes in cinematic experiences to be seeing cinematic experiences being in a recession. Yeah. So it's how are we going to convince people in a dying market to invest? We have partners on board. We have Chocolate Tribe, which is a VFX agency. We have Levelhead Sound for music and sound. Yeah, so we've got partners, but the problem is that the South African film industry isn't that big to begin with. So it's a lot of rushing and waiting for things to happen. It's the usual hurry up and wait. So yeah, that's where we are. But yeah, it's definitely a knock to see that the thing that brought you so much joy growing up, which is going to the movies, is dying. What's today's date? It's the 13th of November. So only a few months away from production. Production will take place. Irrespective, we'll just have to see who's on board and what we can actually get from it. But yeah, it makes me quite sad and discouraged to carry on, but everything happens for a reason. And for me, movies chose me. I didn't choose movies. I already had another career, and this was my calling. It literally called me like gravity. I've already done 5 years of work away from my original career choice as a doctor. So I'm within the industry, and I have to build it, even if it's from the ground up.
This week looked a little bit different behind the scenes. What happened?
This week was slightly different from last week with regards to progress. We were told from our executive producers that our slate as Maddock Pictures is different from theirs. And yeah, so we pretty much are going our separate ways, which is quite sad, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. Yeah, I think that was the biggest blow of this week.
And how did it feel when you heard that they're stepping back for now?
It actually felt, at first it felt confusing, because they have helped us quite a bit with our NAVF application, and they knew what our story was about. I'm not sure what's happened with them, but there has been a change that I will never know about.
If this week had a soundtrack, what would the song be?
If this week had a soundtrack? Sure, I don't know. The only soundtracks I can think are like cinematic, orchestral type of music. I can't think of something with lyrics to showcase, what I was going through this week.
Insert sound here. When something like this happens, what does it make you think about the dream?
It is a setback. You're going to have failures. It does make the dream somewhat further away, but then it also tests your faith in the dream. With having all these setbacks, are you still willing to keep on going? And for me, I pretty much have no choice. I have to keep on going because I told myself when I changed careers from a doctor to a filmmaker that I am going to direct great movies. I'm going to make great movies. And my dream is to be a storyteller. Of course, the ultimate storytelling is in movies, but even if I can be a storyteller just with script writing right now and make sure that I get the best script I possibly can and then pitch it to investors, and then there's like different tiers to your storytelling ability, and I love storytelling. That's the greatest thing for me.
What do you love about storytelling?
I love storytelling because it can change your perspective of your world, and I think that a lot of movies these days actually lack strong stories. I feel like a lot of modern movies today have a really good filmmaking type of way of things where like your set design is amazing, your cinematography is amazing, your shots are amazing, but the stories are lacking. There's so many movies these days where when you watch the movie, you can't watch it again. And I think that is the trickiest art form out of all the forms in filmmaking.
What does the path forward look like?
Now that the executive producers that we have are not as involved in the project, it's still going forward. So going forward, we're going to doctor the screenplay, make sure that the story is as strong as possible. And then once the script is in its final form, then we will take it to other producers, other sales agents to try and get a deal with a distributor.
What's one thing you want next week?
I'm hoping that next week we'll be able to have a proper story structure. We were going through the narrative treatment this week with our script doctor, and a lot of things were highlighted that, you know, I didn't think about, and it's really good. It's good to have things that you didn't think about being highlighted in your story as gaps. So I would like all of the narrative gaps in the story to be filled. It's always good to have questions when you come out of a movie, but it mustn't be questions where it's about the actual story, like what happened. It needs to be questions about how true this can be, or how false it is, whether you agree with the story or whether you don't agree with the story.
What would you say has been the greatest light bulb moment for you with this whole script feedback that you've been getting?
To create characters that have a lot of depth. It takes a lot of work to create characters with depth because your character can't be preaching their personality. They have to be the character, and you have to think, if they were in this personality trait, what will they be doing? And there's certain things where you think that the character will behave in a certain way, but then when you have another expert coming in, they will open your eyes up to the character actually won't be doing that. They'll be doing this, or like the opposite of what you were thinking.
What are you excited about for that next step?
I'm excited to create a story that has a lot of depth, that has a lot of philosophical lessons as well in it. Yeah, and just to see how others enjoy the latest draft. When people give good feedback on the script, it kind of makes you feel like you're not wasting your time. Like, okay, yeah, so there is something worth doing, because the hardest thing about being a storyteller is that when you're writing a story, sure, you're going to love that story, you're going to believe in that story, but when you keep on writing and going over it, it actually becomes boring. And like it's that familiarity breeds contempt type of thing, where you're too familiar with it and now you don't like it anymore. Compared to if, for example, you're doing cinematography, when you're looking at a picture, you can just see, okay, that's a beautiful picture because it's tangible, it's in front of you. But a story is still an idea, it's still very imaginative. So it's just great to have people from different backgrounds, different ages, actually enjoying what you've made. For the next week, we're going to carry on with the script doctoring. We're also going to get a marketing team involved. We already have, this is part of our social media marketing. We're also going to be having brand marketing that we're going to attach to the project so we can get brands involved and sponsorship deals.
The weekly roundup. How are you feeling this week?
Honestly, this week I was actually a bit confused. The thing about the film industry is that there's no blueprint to how people behave and how things are structured. So it's you pretty much out here in the jungle trying to sell your fabulous fruit, and you just got to see where it lands.
What was your biggest win?
Well, honestly, my biggest win, if I'm allowed to say, is the person that's behind this camera that's helping me on my journey. She's been a massive support for me throughout, just from the beginning of this feature film, from the very beginning of this road to the $1 million movie, before we even created the road to the $1 million movie. Yeah. Props to the camera girl. As things develop, it's always good to have someone that's on your team that, number one, believes in your story, and number two, has the capability to actually move things and create momentum for the story to become a reality. And yeah, I'm very lucky with that.
What would you say was your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge, I'd say, is learning film finance. I've only worked in the creative aspects. I've never been in the finance aspect. And I'm a person that likes to know everything before going in. So yeah, just reading up on film finance and learning how to structure it, how to structure a business model for this film. Very challenging, but very interesting.
What did you learn this week?
What I learned this week was that even though some may pull away from the project, that will actually give an opening for others to step up.
One word to sum up week 2.
I would say slow. I think that things have slowed down quite a bit, but doesn't mean that it stops. It just slows down. Well, that's the end of week 2. The grind carries on. People change, plans change, but the work continues. If you're following this crazy mission with us, like and subscribe for more. The road continues.